Fuel Sports Network.
And that's the bottom line. You want a war? You're going to get one.
The cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
And then there was two. So all eyes are on this weekend in St. Louis. Birmingham Stallions and the San Antonio Brahmas got the job done, so they're in the first inaugural UFL Championship. Let's bring on Mike Palco. Hey, Mike.
Hello. How's everybody?
So I just wanted to make an official announcement because it's been a while, and bringing back a guy from the past who's been out on the diamond for like the last month and a half. So I'm sure everybody's looking forward to getting Easy back in the mix. So here he is.
Here he is.
Hey. But don't let this fool you guys. He's only here for one brief week, and then he goes into hiding again.
You can tell how much time I've been spending on the baseball diamond. I got a serious tan going on, man.
Yeah. But look at this. Look at this copper.
I look like a totally different guy, man. I'm toned and tanned everywhere, baby.
I hate to say it, but I look a little more copper toned than you. But
it might be the age.
But I was going to say one thing. You know, when I moved to Thursday nights, you know, of course it helps to have those extra days to pick. I'm a firm believer that Eric kind of checked out for 5 weeks, 6 weeks straight, just because he wanted those extra days to make his picks. Plus, you don't really have any kids, do you? You just rent a kid. What you won't do to try and get the edge on picks. That's all I get.
When you end the season as the big dog, I didn't have a stuffed animal because all my kids are older now. So I have to settle for a dog toy that my kid left here from his dogs. I'm holding the big dog. It's kind of ripped up. It's missing an arm, almost a leg.
Perfect.
But the seasoned big dog resides right here, baby. Right here.
Oh, God. So,
John
Before
David, it is not an ugly jersey. This is a vintage 1987 Andre Dawson jersey, man.
So
Can't disrespect that.
So what's your point?
Yeah, it's Andre Dawson. The Hawk, baby. Can probably still hit a ball 500 feet.
So, so here we go. We got the final two. Not the final two that I think we had all hoped for.
Jeff Barnes got it right. If you're those tuning in from last week, we had Jeff Barnes come in, and I texted him. I was like, because he was in between a Battlehawks supporter and a Panthers supporter, and he picked Birmingham and San Antonio.
So the tale of two halves in the first game between Michigan and Birmingham. Final score was Birmingham 31-18. Before we get into that, courtesy of the UFL, let's take a look at the highlights.
For each team, CJ Marable for me at 9-1 on the Birmingham side. He scored one last week, 2 total touchdowns in the game, 3 in the last 4 games. 11-1 the price on that prop.
There is Mariner on the slant. Stormy's going to catch right now. Touchdown. What a start for the Panthers. 35 yards to the house. Martinez, the top rusher in the league, stands, throws up the seam, got his man, touchdown. One play, 50 yards. Tomorrow. He was catching passes from Alex Magoo, the league MVP. Martinez should be the league MVP this season. He's looking for Kane. Picked off. Adonis Alexander says, give me that.
Around the league, this league or NFL or high school, whatever, he's one of the most talented players you're going to meet.
On 2nd and 3, that's intercepted. What is happening in this third quarter? Javen White on the takeaway. Does anybody want 4 turnovers and 4 first downs, plus a big punt? Oh my goodness! Another takeaway. This could go the distance. Daniel Isom scores! From the empty set, Corral looks, throws, Rodgers, touchdown! Stallions take the lead after they trail by. Matt Corral on release.
And Mike was on official suicide watch.
Persons guided toward the pylon. Touchdown!
And then the floodgates open.
You know, Mike, at least you got to enjoy 2+ quarters of your team looking like they had a real shot. So I mean, I guess there's that.
Oh boy, didn't they? It was, it's always a scary thing if a team looks so good and one of the first half, especially, you're like, let's hold on here, because we saw in that first half too, one little slip up, one play, and Birmingham was right in it with a touchdown pass. So when you're on against a team like this, you have them on the ropes. I just, kind of like boxing, you have a team on the ropes, but then your own arms, you start getting a little tired, start getting them, lowering them a little bit, and eventually, Birmingham came right back.
The thing that I've noticed about a lot of the UFL games, and I watched pretty much all of them, was I don't know how many games I watched one team dominate a half and go into the half 16-6, 15-7, but totally dominate it, but the other team is still in it. And only to watch that other team come back and take the lead, win the game, whatever it was. It just seems like you just want to take the first half and write it off and wait for the second half to see what happens, because that's the way a lot of these UFL games worked out.
Yeah,
well, the killer was, you look at that first half, Michigan put 18 points on the board, but some of those threes could have, if they could have turned those into touchdowns. And then the touchdown that they gave Birmingham right before half, it was like all that first half domination just went away because now it's a one-score game going into the locker room.
The thing about Birmingham, though, is they've been doing that all year. I mean, they did it game one. They took momentum, just sucked the wind out of the team, when they did to Arlington in week one, and I did it a couple times throughout the year. They put that scoring at the end of the half, and it's like, wouldn't 18-6 have looked a lot better? Would have felt a lot better? You know what I mean? So, I mean, kudos to them, for making those plays, and I guess that's why they are where they're at.
In the game, too, it reminded me of in the NFL, there was a playoff game some time ago between the Ravens and the Colts. And Ravens kept hitting all these field goals. That's all it was. But that kept the Colts right in it. Colts got touchdowns. To beat a team like that, Peyton Manning coming in, and that you gotta score. You got to get in the end zone to beat teams like this. So I think I was getting kind of like similar, signals from this game. It's nice to score in Birmingham, but you got to finish the team off. You got to get in the end zone, get the maximum amount of points you can, because this team, Birmingham, can, like firecrackers, they can come right back.
And the turnovers, they were costly.
Absolutely.
Birmingham had 4 turnovers as well.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that interception that Etling threw, and I mean, let's be honest, Mike. I feel like Michigan, and I don't, I guess take it for what it's worth. I feel like Michigan, as strong as they played throughout the year, was always a quarterback away from being that team. Yeah. And ironically enough, I was in a golf tournament last weekend, and I had the privilege of having about an hour-and-a-half conversation with the Arlington Renegades offensive coordinator, Chuck Long. And he made a comment to me that, I think he nailed it. He goes, because I asked him the question, I said, if there was one thing that you had to point out in the UFL that is the biggest, the thing that makes a successful team, what would it be? Because if you ask that same question in the NFL, what's everybody say?
Oh, the quarterback.
Quarterback, right? Quarterback. If you got a good quarterback, you've got the piece in place to then build around and make a successful team. That was not Chuck Long's answer. His answer was 100% defense. And he goes, if you look at the teams that were in the playoffs, I think they were the top 4 defenses. I think. So, because he mentioned that they were the top 4 defenses, so I got to believe him there. So, I mean, the UFL is just a different animal, and the defenses shined, for Birmingham and for San Antonio, and that's why they're at. So, I mean, if it comes from Chuck Long, I got to believe he knows what he's talking about.
Well, and you think about, too, with one, how quickly these leagues start from the time the players get to training camp for the UFL and the time it takes to put these offenses together and then get in rhythm. Defense, if you just have pursuit, know your angles, they say, typically when let's say a new coach comes in, defense is, I don't give any side of the ball is easier than the other, but they say you can fix the defense quickly if there's a struggling team. If you're a new coach that comes in, and you're in your defensive minded, you can fix the defense. Offense a little more complex. You got to get everybody, their chemistry, especially if you're a passing attack. That takes time to build up. But if you're, defense, speed, hit them, make your tackles, know your angles, assignments, should be all right.
And that's really where I think, you saw some of the issues. St. Louis ended up with a lot of injuries. AJ McCarron, things that's a season killer on the offensive side, and we had on defense. But if your defense stays healthy, I mean, that's huge in the UFL. Huge.
Let's go to a break, and when we come back, I want to get into a little bit of Adrian Martinez discussion. We'll be right back.
If you aren't perfect.
aren't perfect. If you've ever struggled, if you've ever failed, if you want to get better, be better, and make our world better, this is the perfect brand for you. True Victory. Founded by U.S. military veterans, True Victory is a sportswear and streetwear brand dedicated to building everyday champions on and off the field. We're a cause. Our purpose is to transform lives and elevate humanity through the power and unity of sports, positive stories, and serving others. We're dedicated to the game, the grind, and the globe. But most importantly, we're dedicated to you. That's what it means to be. Always true.
And we're back. If you still had comments on the defensive side of things, go ahead before I answer my question, or else we'll just go ahead.
No, I mean, I think it's 100% that. I agreed with Chuck Long completely. When you look at the defense, when you look at the teams that played great defense, they were in every game. You know, they were able to keep their offenses in there, and the top four defenses ended up in the playoffs. So I think, you know, that hits the nail right on the head. Have a good defense, and you're going to be in games, and you're going to have a shot to be in the playoffs at the end of the season.
Yeah, no lead is safe. You know, that's what they've said throughout the whole season, right? So no matter where you're in the game, you know, they can teams can easily get back in it. So I think that's what's exciting too, is fans, you know, hey, you know, it's not over until you see 3 zeros on that clock, and we are serious. Like, that is so true in this league.
So Brett says, gives a shout out to Eric. It's been a while.
Hey, Brett, how are you?
As we've seen over the last few weeks, Coach Holtz has been right in the ear of Adrian Martinez pretty much every game. And every time he comes off the field, he's critiquing the drive. And it kind of seemed like Coach was getting a little bit more agitated, should we say, the last couple of weeks. But then it kind of come to a head this last game, and Coach Holtz actually pulled Adrian Martinez from the game. And basically it come down to, I just think that he didn't think that he and his quarterback were on the same page, because he pretty much pulled him out, you know, basically saying, if you're not going to run the offense the way I want it run, then we're going to put somebody else in there who will. And as it turned out, Matt Corral went in there and tore it up.
You did.
That's a gutsy move.
And so
talking league MVP right there, and you bench him and put in your guy that you pretty much have had on the bench since about the fourth week. That's a gutsy move, but I mean, I guess that's why Skip Holtz is Skip Holtz.
What a luxury. What a luxury for Birmingham.
Yeah. I was going to say, I mean, it's, you know, it's got to be kind of tough on the ego to get league MVP, and the very next game, by the third quarter, you're benched. And then not only that, but then the announcers that were doing the game, towards the end, they get into a discussion as to who you would start in the championship game.
Right.
And they actually come to a consensus that they thought Matt Corral should start the championship game. I said, holy smokes, what have you done for me lately? Mentality. I just think, me personally, I just think Adrian Martinez deserves a start. If you want to have a short leash, so be it. But Adrian Martinez is a big reason why you're in the championship game. And I just felt like, coach demands a lot. A lot of coaches are that way. I'm sure Eric is that way. But how fast fans will jump off the bandwagon when things aren't going well.
We got a comment here. We have our Birmingham faithful. No way he'd start Martinez Sunday. But that's just him. Trust Skip. And Skip they trust.
Well, I heard through the grapevine today that Adrian Martinez was going to get the start.
Yep, he's getting the start. Now, but
Sabrina comments that Adrian Martinez is kind of reverting back to the way he was at the beginning of the season. But
that's a tough call. I tell you what. I mean, as Mike said, it's a great luxury to have two quarterbacks that you trust, the way that they do. Martinez struggles a little bit. You bring in Matt Corral. He kind of reins everything in, leads Birmingham's charge back. Hats off to that. It takes a lot. To be quite honest, I think it says more about Matt Corral than it says about Coach Holtz because, he went through I'm the starter. Now I'm not the starter. Then I'm a starter. And then I'm benched for 6 games. Adrian Martinez is the man. And then when he got his chance back, all he did was lead Birmingham to a win and a chance at the UFL Championship. So, I mean, I guess I take my hat off more to Matt Corral because, that takes some stones.
It does.
Stick with it to keep at it and just wait. You never know when that chance gets up there. And he jumped right in there. And I mean, we were watching the game at the golf tournament, watched a little bit with Chuck Long. And it was about the time when they pulled Martinez and and his comment was that was a bold move. But you know what? It worked.
Yeah, and we've all watched Matt Corral get interviewed on the sideline, always like a team player. He was always, he had the headset on, always learning or, watching the offense, maybe helping with the play calls. He was always in the game, whether it be he's on the field, sideline. So for him to get his opportunity, like you said too, calm, cool, collected. It's good to see him, not have any, he shook off any rust that he had, just went up there and in a Michigan defense of all defenses and have the performance he did on Saturday.
Yeah, it says a ton about Matt Corral. I have a lot of respect for that kid.
Yeah.
Doing what he did and then having the performance that he did on Saturday. That speaks volumes for the type of players that you're looking for as a coach, and Skip definitely has a pretty good one there.
Yeah.
No question.
I can't imagine that QB room too, making that decision. I mean, I'm sure that killed Skip to make the call, He would love to start them both, but unfortunately you can't. So
right.
Tell you what, that third quarter really become a pinball game with turnovers.
Yeah, I mean,
you take the ball. No, I don't want the ball. You take. I mean, it was.
But the problem is that exchanging turnovers like that, Birmingham was getting the better end of the deal. They were
absolutely.
They were getting the pick six and stuff.
Yeah.
But
and while we still talking about quarterbacks too, despite what went down with every player who's played football knows anybody is one play away from an injury. And it was, it stinks to not have a good dynamic player like Bryce Perkins out there. But Danny Etling was, he was the best chance Michigan had, and he showed a lot of fight in the game despite those couple turnovers. So a lot of fight. They fought tooth and nail to the end. Michigan was fun to watch the entire season. They were in every game. So maybe they are a quarterback away, maybe, speculating, maybe, what's going on in Memphis. Does Michigan trade for a guy like Case Cookus, who we've seen can sling the ball around? And Michigan, has a better offensive line than what Memphis has. So just some ideas out there. Not that, that Steve Kaiser needs to hear mine or anything like that. But, like you mentioned, Eric, quarterback away. I'm sure they'll go back to, they'll reevaluate Coach Nolan, the staff. It'll be exciting to see. I'm looking forward to next year. They have a solid base to build on, and I think good things to come moving forward. I know, unless the NFL picks the Michigan team apart with signing players.
You might be a kicker away too. Kicker away too.
Yeah. Well, I think, they got a guy like, you got a guy from last year, Cole Murphy, kind of, he's still out there. So, hey, if Jake Bates, from the attention he's getting from NFL teams who may need the services, hey, there's openings. So it's just going to be opportunity for somebody else.
But like Brett says here, Cookus may be damaged goods.
I hope not.
He took an absolute beating.
He did.
In Memphis, and it makes you wonder, there's a lot to be said about confidence.
Well, and Brett talks about his behavior. When you're a quarterback and you are taking shellacking after shellacking after shellacking, I mean, the frustration builds. And I know as the leader in the room, the quarterback, de facto leader, has to calm himself, and he can't be that guy. But sometimes you can only get beat up so much. That guy was taking sack after sack after hard hit after hard hit. Sometimes those frustrations boil over, and it makes it tough. So maybe his behavior was something that they're like, we can't handle this. We can't have this in the room. But they have to reflect a little bit and say, we almost got this guy killed. So maybe we need to do a better job of protecting our quarterbacks in the future, because if we don't, you're going to bring in another guy and you may have the same thing because he's tired of laying on his back every other play.
And he took some hits too his second year with the Philadelphia Stars too. So this is 2 years in a row. These hits compound over time, and
they can make you an old man in a hurry.
Yeah, and from my experience too, being with the Philadelphia Stars too, like everybody on the team, like from what I've seen too, Cookus got along with everybody. He was fun. He was kind of a comedian in a sense, and on the always he'd have his personality. I didn't that's actually shocking news, but but it would make sense to me that getting beat up 2 seasons in a row, and even though these games are 10 weeks long, regular seasons, that's still a lot. Getting hit.
I don't know how many sacks he was averaging a game, but it was a boatload.
Yeah.
So 10 weeks or not, 10 weeks or not, that was a beating. He took an NFL season-long beating in just 10 weeks.
Just compacted in a showboat's worth of. I
can't imagine what the ice bath felt like for him after every game. Because,
oh man,
there was
a body cast.
There was several games that I probably would have been well worth the price of admission to go into the Birmingham Stallion locker room at halftime to hear Coach Holtz talk to his team. Because there were several games that they weren't there the first half and come out the second half and just totally dominated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so where's the mic'd up? I wanted to see that.
Yeah, we should have been mic'd up on that stuff.
So let's take a break, and when we come back, we're going to turn the page and we're going to move on to the San Antonio Brahmas, St. Louis.
Uh-oh.
Lots to talk about in the next game between San Antonio and St. Louis. But again, courtesy of the UFL, let's check out the highlights first.
Oh man,
That was the killer right there.
well, we might as well get some commentary on here. So,
That's right. Oh my God, there was so much more they could have shown for discussion.
well, there's I think a lot to discuss off the first play, like hot potato on right away, like.
Well,
Yeah.
When I watch this game, I don't know how many. What the hell were you thinking moments I had in that game?
Oh God.
That little flip, try to get it back to McCarron. In my
lot of risk.
Well, I'm thinking that's such a high risk play in that position. What were you thinking? We go from weeks of what is he thinking? What is he thinking? Run the middle, try to throw it for a first down punt. And now all of a sudden, we bring that out in this position, and shockingly enough, it goes absolutely awry. After we get the ball on the turnover, we give it right back to them. And then what do? They go right down and score. And it was just like, even on TV, you could just feel the air just right out of the dome.
So here's the deal. You got AJ that's got a bad wheel, right? So just a couple of examples right before halftime. What are you, 75, 80 yards away from scoring with like 20 seconds left to go? You hang him out to dry there, so he gets hurt right before halftime, needlessly.
Which was dumb.
But then in the third quarter, you pull out the Philadelphia Eagle 2-point conversion where you hand it off, do a reverse, and then you throw it back to AJ on the 10-yard line.
Yeah.
And you expect him to juke people out and score, and so instead he ends up taking another hit. I mean, it's my God.
I mean, I should have wrote down all the what were they thinkings all throughout the game. I was so frustrated and mad. I mean, I was texting Ed. He was at the game, and I don't know how many times I just put WTF, WTF, WTF. Like, it was awful. Listen, I get it. AJ, as Brett mentioned, was playing on one good leg. We lost Mike Rose, the captain of the defense, early in the first quarter. I get all those things. But good Lord, you still have to have some sort of rationale for what you're doing. And I absolutely could not find the rationale for what we were doing. I couldn't find it.
And I want to, and to add on with that too, I want to hear your guys' thoughts too. When they're trying to make this comeback too, something about the clock management. I even texted Ed here. I'm like, what are they doing? Because even Joe Klatt was going, why aren't they kicking the field goal?
So before we get too deep into that, because since all you ding dong, you're going to take all my game changers away from me before I even have a chance to do it.
This is all about Ed. Yeah, can't take
That's
the stuff.
fine. Let's go to now. That's a game changer. Okay, I'm going to limit it to just 3. God knows I could have done a hell of a lot more. But I know, Eric, you're going to probably disagree with me on the first one, but to me, it was huge. Game changer number 1, first quarter, very first drive. You have a 3rd down and 10. AJ throws a dime right in Hakeem Butler's hands that if he catches that ball, you are in scoring position, something that you haven't done in the first quarter for 6 weeks is score in the first quarter. With that catch, you would have been in position at the very least to have 3, but you also put yourself in a position to get a touchdown. You get up right away in the first quarter like that, as turnover prone as San Antonio has been in the first half of their games, you could have opened the door to a completely different outcome. Maybe not, but maybe. Game changer number 2. On the interception in the first quarter that the St. Louis Battlehawks made in the end zone, Mike Rose sustains a concussion that knocks him out of the game. I know it's a big if, but I have to believe that when Anthony McFarland ran that 69-yard touchdown straight up the middle in the third quarter to break that game open, I got to believe that if Mike Rose is in there, that tackle is made. Okay, so that's game changer number 2. Game changer number 3, oh my God. I don't even know where to start on game changer number 3, so I'll get right into it. Okay. St. Louis is down 10 points. They got the ball with a little under 2 minutes left, all 3 of their timeouts. So they have to score twice. So more than likely, no matter what the outcome is, you've got a 4th and 12 that you're going to have to convert. But they've beat San Antonio before on the 4th down play last year. So what happens? Think about this. Less than 2 minutes left. Not only do you have to drive the field and score one way or another, but then you have to do the 4th and 12. And most likely, after you convert the 4th and 12, you still have 70 yards, at least 60 yards that you got to go down that field to score again within that minute 50 seconds. All right? So wouldn't you think that time was of the essence? Okay, let's talk about these plays. Fourth quarter, I won't talk about the incomplete passes because there was 6 on that final drive. There was 6 incomplete passes. I'll forget about that. I will tell you just the plays that they ran and what they gained. They gained 8 yards, 3 yards, 15 yards, 8 yards, 3 yards, 7 yards, 6 yards, 0, no gain play. What are you doing? And not only that, but while they're doing this drive, they don't even really use their timeouts. So that clock is just tick, 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 tick. I'm sitting there beside myself about to die saying, kick the field goal, because you have to be able to have enough time on the final drive because you still got to go down the field and score again.
Right.
But they just basically like a slow drip. Just let that clock just continue to run. 3 yards, 8 yards, tackle in the middle of the field.
The sense of urgency in that last drive, when they got to about the 30, between the 30 and the 35, I can't remember what yard line it was. That's when the field goal. I think there was a minute 16 on the clock. And even the announcers on TV said, if you're going to have any chance to win this game, you got to kick it now. And they just kept going.
And he even said kick it. And he even said kick it when there was like 20 seconds left. By then, it's too late.
Yeah, what are you waiting for? Yeah, I mean.
But they were in a position where they could have kicked that field goal with at least 50 seconds or so left. But, you know, these little dunk and dinks that they had over the middle that they weren't using timeouts on, that, you know, 10, 15 seconds is running off between plays. It's, to me, again, AJ's hurt. We knew that. But as a coach, as an offensive coordinator, you know, again, Coach Beck is on the sidelines watching this. He has a pipe up to Grakowski. But Grakowski, it's like, hey, dude, do you need somebody to be reading off the time to you up there? Because, how can you be an offensive coordinator and he's sitting up on top because he likes the view? He can see so much. Well, evidently he can't see the play clock because it's just a slow drip. And not once did we try and push that ball down the field. You got Akeem Butler that's like 7'11", and they never once tried to for a big play down the middle.
At that point, why don't you take a 50-50 shot? He won 2 of them earlier. Take a 50-50 shot. Yeah, I looked at my kid and I said, our offensive coordinator must be looking at a different clock than I am.
I mean,
it had to be a different clock than what we saw on TV, because he was just – it was unreal. It was unreal.
So then you could add another one, okay? The end of the third quarter, when we got that fumble return for a touchdown, it was 19-15. We decided to go for 2 instead of 1. What do they always say? The home team, you play for the tie. Road team, you play for the win. You take the 1-pointer there, you get within a field goal. To me, the mentality to your team is so much different. To know that I am down 19-16, I'm within a field goal, to now it's 19-15. Oh, my God, I got to figure out how to score a touchdown. That is just so much different. It's like, again, I'm a nobody. I just watch a lot of football, and I love to do it. But can we honestly sit in our couch or sit in the stadium and watch the game from a mile away and actually see things that different from the offensive coordinator? I mean, I'm not one of those guys that always wring my hands and say somebody needs to be fired, because, you know,
I am.
I mean, but the offensive coordinator, Grakowski, for the last 2 years, I have been screaming bloody murder about how I think he is just not an offensive coordinator for the UFL. He has a conservative NFL mentality that just does not work for this league.
You know, I think you're right, and I'll tell you this. So in the same conversation I was having with Chuck Long, offensive coordinator for the Arlington Renegades, we actually had a conversation about this. And it's funny you mentioned this. I said to him, how different is it for you as an offensive coordinator, managing the offense, managing the clock and things like that, compared to an NFL situation? And his response was, it's night and day. I said, because I feel like I watch a UFL game and all of a sudden it's halftime. The clock just disappears. You know, then you get into the second half and then you're into the fourth quarter. Where'd the clock go? When that clock keeps running, your mind, I believe, has to work different. In the NFL, you know, NFL games, 3.5 hours, man. You know, you got time. But in these UFL games, time is so much more valuable. I mean, would you agree, Mike, that in the UFL, time is so much more valuable than even in the NFL, based on how the timing of the game goes.
Oh, absolutely.
Hold that thought, Mike. And when we come back, we will go straight to you for the answer.
So yes, time. I got little stop. One of these works. Yeah, totally different. And they want to. And there's a lot of reasons they may have the time, but I like it. Especially with the league like this too. You get you get to these critical moments in the game quicker that a lot of these scouts may want to see too from the NFL. But aside from that, you still got to manage that play clock, however it runs off. So. Yeah, I'm sitting there. I had my hands on my head watching the Battle Hawks.
This is how I watched the whole game, Mike.
Well, like Sabrina says, very good insight on time. I think that's why earlier in the season you saw a lot of the coaches mismanaging time. They're jumbling rules.
Yeah, in the football, and I saw a game. I think it was against DC or some with Michigan. With or do you take the field goal, or do you go for this? Joe Class done a great job at calling it out when it happens on the live during the games too. So the football math's different, but over time, this is kind of earlier in the season too. So with the extra point rule, a lot of the coaches who came from the NFL used to the one extra point, but now you can think, oh, wait a minute, it's not just can't just go and just kick that one anymore. And
would you argue, Mike? And I'll pose this to you or Ed. I have a question for both of you. So I'd have to look back at the percentages on the regular season, but I know the highest percentage of extra point was from the 2-point line. So the 5-yard line. Okay. Yep. I think we can all agree on that. The smallest percentage obviously was from the 3, so the 10, and then you had the 1 point at the 2-yard line. How many games would you say, and I'll pose this to both of you, how many games would you say could have been changed or a lot more pressure put on or opportunity for the team that didn't take those if teams would just go for 1?
Well,
do you think we see a change?
Yeah.
I watched all the games, and every game St. Louis played, we always go for 2. And I bet our success rate was no more than 40%, 30%, somewhere right in there.
Well,
I know what they're
really
thinking.
Fell off. We really fell off at the end of the season.
We hardly didn't ever get it, But I think their thinking is, well, if we don't get this one, we'll get the next one, and that'll make up for it. But it never seemed to work out that way for teams. So my question is, do you think that if more teams went from the 1 for the 1 point from the 2, I think there's just there's so many games that might have been more up in the air than they were had teams been, call it conservative, call it whatever you want, with going from the 1. Especially, for instance, Michigan or San Antonio with their running game and their ability to move the ball that way, or Birmingham with Martinez. What is the allure of 2 when 1 point is 1 point?
Well, Michigan, throughout the season too, they've been that team. I think I haven't seen them go for 2 very often. Even when they're at home too, it's always been just going for the 1 point, 1 point, 1 point. So, if you have to lead too, why risk? I see you, Brett.
Yeah, I know. I'm listening to you read this comment.
I was going to ask you, Mike. Does Michigan have personal property tax?
Well, I think from what I believe it's 6% tax. So, go ahead.
How do you put a dollar amount on that? I guess we got to figure out what the Michigan franchise is worth, right?
Right. I'm looking down at the comment. I see him just.
Yeah. We can't even finish a thought.
So here's Eric. Here's Eric trying to get all serious and stuff, and I'm laughing in the back.
I know, because I was trying not to laugh because I could see him in the comment. Yeah.
But here's the yeah, you make a good point, Eric. But here's another point. As much as we talk about what St. Louis didn't do, we need to be talking about what San Antonio did. Because one of the things we've always been that I've been commenting on all year long was how poor the Battlehawks third down percentage is. And here's the 2 weeks that we played San Antonio back to back. In week 10, our third down conversion rate we went 2 for 12.
Yeah.
And then this playoff game, our third down, 2 for 11. We went a total of 4 and 23. How are you? And so everybody wants to say, oh, it was the defense played poor. The defense played poor. Well, Mike Rose was gone in the middle, number one. That had a lot to do with the running game, I got to believe. But number two, when your defense is on the sideline, and a lot of times they're not even getting a chance to look at the iPads. They're not even getting a chance to talk to the coaches and make adjustments because you got an offense on the field that can't stay on the field.
Yeah.
And again, I put a lot of that on the offensive coordinator because it's not like all of a sudden we had the Battlehawks had trouble with third down. Third down has been a problem all season long.
Well, but
how many games have to go by before the offensive coordinator changes things up to try and work on that?
I don't know what the statistics are, but I would say that after week 5, St. Louis probably led the league in 3 and outs. And I mean, even over Houston. I don't know how many games I watched us go 3 and out, 3 and out. Then we might score 2 touchdowns in a row. Then it was 3 and out, 3 and out. Because my evaluation of it is this. Our play calling on first and second down was so poor that we put ourselves in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, 3rd and long consistently. Now, credit San Antonio's defense. Their defense was better. Their rushing attack killed us. Chase Garbers did exactly what he needed to do. He was efficient. I think 9 of 11, for 120 yards, couple touchdowns. They picked us apart, and it was over with. I mean, when we couldn't move the ball and San Antonio was moving the ball at will, I think I texted you and I said, we're in trouble. Period. We're in trouble because San Antonio was doing what they wanted.
There's a difference between, I realize when you run the ball, that you have to run the ball between the tackles too. I get that. But if you look at most teams that run the ball up the middle, it is a handoff right away and boom, you hit the hole. I call it the Minnesota no gain run up the middle because they hike it to the quarterback who's in shotgun formation. He hesitates. The running back stands straight up and he hesitates. And then they give it to him and he goes straight ahead for nothing.
Yeah.
And when you do that consistently, part of a successful offense is you got to remain unpredictable. You can't be predictable. Well, when you run the ball up the middle for no gain and you have no creativity on first and second down, everybody that's sitting in the stands, everybody who's out getting a 3-week-old pretzel, they know on third down you got to throw the ball. So what happens when you got a defensive line like San Antonio has? They pin their ears back, and here they come. And now you have an AJ who's immobile because of his injury. You put yourself behind the 8 ball. I know you want to establish the run, but you know what? Sometimes play action would have worked on first and second down because they've watched the Battlehawks try and run up the middle now for how many games, and they can't do it. I mean,
do you know how many times during the game, we ran the ball against single safety? You know how many times? Nearly every single time. Single safety means there are more men in the box. And we ran into the teeth of their defense every single time. And then when it was obviously a predictable throwing situation, 2 safeties back, and it put more pressure on our offense. Where San Antonio was catching us was, I don't know, flipping it, whatever they wanted to do. They would catch us. They would run the ball when we got our 2 safeties back. And then single safety, here comes the pass. And we couldn't keep up with them. But I will tell you this. I think part of the problem is something that, I guess you can say we were lucky the first 2 games. But what really stuck out to me was the speed, the overall speed of San Antonio's defense. They were all over the field, from the defensive line to the linebackers to the corners to the safeties. They were flying to the football. We got out coached, we got outplayed, whatever it was. But San Antonio, in all phases of the game, did what they had to do. I mean, it was almost like, I don't know, maybe Gradkowski thought he was fooling them. He thought if we could get through the teeth of their defense, it's going to open up for us and Sailors is going to run through it. It didn't happen. We ran the ball consistently against single safety coverage. Consistently. And how many times was Butler one-on-one with a guy on the outside and we didn't go to him? One-on-one. Offensive player of the year. One-on-one. And we don't get him the ball. That should be an automatic. Hey, check, whatever they do, and we're going to Butler on the outside because it's single coverage. And we didn't do it. We had open receivers at times, but we just, it's so frustrating. But hey, hats off to San Antonio. They did exactly what they needed to do, and they were either coached better, played better, maybe didn't have the injuries. They had all their guys back, fine, whatever. But whatever it was, they had 100% the mentality to win that game. And St. Louis was playing behind the 8 ball, either because they put themselves behind the 8 ball, the offensive coordinator was putting himself behind the 8 ball, or whatever it was. But I'm a high school coach, and I could see that we're running against single safety all the time.
So Mike, since this is officially the first hour is over with, do you have to run, or are you going to stick with us for a while?
I'll stick with it. I'll be here. Yeah. So
okay, so let's go to a break, and when we come back, we will officially start hour 2.
This is the Fuel Sports Network.
And that's the bottom line. You want a war? You're going to get one.
Rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Nobody thought of that.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
So it's time to turn the page and start talking about the championship game. Both San Antonio Brahmas and the Birmingham Stallions deserve to be there. They took care of business, and turns out they were both just better. So here we go.
And
Go ahead.
just a reminder too of how this before the season start, those preseason odds to make the championship. I think it's so funny how you have the lowest odds, the favorite, Birmingham, and San Antonio, which had the plus 1,200 to win the championship playing in the game. So those San Antonio fans out there that said, hey, you know what, let me throw pizza money or whatever on the Brahmas, I think you're sitting pretty good right now. You may even have a nice cash out option right now to weigh over before this game. So you either ride it or, hey, you probably made, they probably gave you a nice option to take right now. My advice, winner walks away. So, yeah. But hey, if you want something to, have some stakes for this game, by all means, let it go. I think it's gonna be a fantastic game. Wade Phillips, first championship game for him in his 50+ years of coaching. So I think this is a exciting time for Wade too. So I think he's pretty thrilled where the team is from what they've started with to now.
So, JR, you did not miss the show. You missed half the show. And seeing how upset you were last night, you might want to listen to the first hour because the betting you wanted to hear, I'm pretty sure you missed in the first hour. But
we may sprinkle some back.
Yeah.
So, when these two teams met back in week 9, the San Antonio Brahmas put the first loss on Birmingham of the season, and they come out with an 18-9 win. One question I have that I think kind of weighs on my decision on who I think is going to win the game is you've had San Antonio make the trip to St. Louis now twice. They got to play back-to-back in St. Louis. They got to play in the Dome. They got acclimated to everything from where they go into the stadium. They from beginning to end, they've got their routine down on what they do in St. Louis, down to the nitty-gritty. Fast forward now, you got Birmingham Stallions that have coming into town. They've only played 2 Dome games for the season. They had a 1-score win against Michigan early in the season, but their second Dome game was against San Antonio, and they were defeated, I don't want to say soundly, but it was pretty soundly. So now you've got Birmingham making the trip to St. Louis to play in the Dome in the championship game, and everything is going to be new from the time they land until they go home. How much bearing do you think that has on the outcome compared to a team who's been able to get acclimated and is going to be playing their 3rd game in a row in St. Louis?
I think it might level the playing field just a little bit, with any advantage, especially in a championship setting. I think that you can get. I think San Antonio would very much take it, especially against, they beat the Stallions already. Stallions are, something, they come back. It's a revenge game for them on the biggest stage in the UFL. Tom Brady's going to be there. Dwayne Johnson, all the executives are going to be there. So a lot of pressure. You want to win. It's going to be on Fox, primetime slot. But any advantage you can have, I'd take it. I'd be happy to have it. And it's more like San Antonio. It's what would you? It's it's a motel. It's a hotel stay. They've 3 games in a row in St. Louis. So getting kind of used to how everything is. So nothing they haven't seen before. I think it would lead to a smoother transition, the kickoff for them. So. Maybe they don't have the butterflies. Maybe the Stallions do. So that's I think it plays a role, not a lot, but I think enough to where it's like, yeah, I'd take it.
I don't think it's going to be maybe a little bit. I don't think it's going to be a huge factor. Make no mistake, Skip Holtz is going to have those guys ready to play. I anticipate a phenomenal game. You're talking about a solid Birmingham defense. You're talking about a solid, quick, fast San Antonio defense. You're talking about a team that can run the ball, that puts pressure on the ground, as well as efficiently through the air with Kirkland, and Garber's throwing it to him. Birmingham, the quarterback thing kind of makes me feel that San Antonio has the edge. San Antonio is coming into St. Louis set. I haven't heard of any injuries that are, putting them behind the 8 ball. I haven't heard anything like that. So I have to assume they're coming into St. Louis set. And, go ahead, Mike.
They did try to sign a tight end from Michigan State that got vetoed. That. And my opinion, my thoughts on that, it wouldn't make sense. It's kind of like a last minute signing. I think the league was like, whoa, hold on a minute. That's you got what you have. It's not, let's not go adding on, all these pieces here. So in my opinion, no, I hate it for the player, but I think both teams, use the team that you have that got you to this point. So now I don't know if there's an injury thing going on where you may need, that's, I think news I haven't seen yet, but
I haven't seen anything come across. No.
Yeah. So I think if everybody's healthy, and you have everyone's ready to go, sorry, we just, it's too late in the season, especially if they're late in the week, to prep, and I think it'd be definitely, it may or may not be an advantage, but it's just something maybe to note, or however you may take it, especially if you're on the Birmingham side of things. You're like, wait a minute, let's say you go and get some 6'7" wide receiver like yesterday. So,
right. Well, and I think probably a bigger advantage for San Antonio than, having come to St. Louis the last 2 weeks is Martinez, Corral. Little friction there, a little not knowing. Is Martinez going to play tight because he's thinking, first bad play I make, I'm out, that type of thing? That's not the thing that you want to have. I realize it was a great move putting Corral in. He played phenomenal. The Birmingham ends up winning big. But you've created a little doubt potentially in your league MVP quarterback. Is he going to be looking over his shoulder for the time that he's in there? If he's able to even make it through the whole game? I don't know.
So, JR, before we get into going to the game and the attendance, we'll get into that. But first, let's talk about the game a little more. So, let's start with the 2 offenses. You look at San Antonio's offense and you look at Birmingham's offense. I guess I gotta give the edge offensively to San Antonio if we're talking offense versus offense. I mean, to me, you've got the three-headed monster. You've got Lovett for San Antonio, you got Lovett getting the hard yards up the middle. It's wearing down the line. McFarland just looks fast. You got him on the outside. You've got Kirkland. I mean, you name it. I mean, it's and not only that, but then when you look at, just instead of traditional rushing plays, traditional passing plays, now you've got a wide receiver that also used to be a quarterback, that now the trick plays are not only there, but the trick plays can be lethal because you've got a guy that can really throw the rock. So when you look at Birmingham, it looks like their running game just doesn't seem to be that scary, I guess you would say. I just think that San Antonio opens the playbook so much more for keeping the defense off balance.
I think if I had to break down, if I break down individual position, I would say quarterback. Obviously, I'm going to go with Birmingham. Not that Chase Garbers is a bad quarterback, but you have the league MVP. You also have Matt Corral, who had the performance he had last week. Running back, I definitely give the edge to the two-headed monster and Lovett McFarland. They're solid, extremely solid, very fast, as Ed pointed out. As far as wide receivers go, Kirkland, Smith, Stevenson, they all showed up last week. I think that they probably have a slight edge in the receiving core. Offensive lines, I think you could probably say a wash, kind of even that way. So when you take a look at those two things, and if I go again with Chuck Long, the quarterback not being the most important piece, I agree with that. I think I got to give the edge to San Antonio offensively with the pieces that they have, whether it be Lovett, McFarland, Kirkland, Smith, Stevenson. I think offensively they get the nod for me.
JR says he thinks the opposite. He thinks Birmingham's offense is better and can put up points fast, but San Antonio's defense, especially the front four, is much better.
Which is what I think neutralizes Birmingham's ability. The ability that we talked about earlier, being able to put those points at the end of the halves and stuff like that. I'm telling you, San Antonio's defense is one of the fastest defenses, probably the fastest defense in the UFL. And that makes up for a lot of mistakes. You can make mistakes defensively, but speed can make up for a lot of those things, and they are fast everywhere. And I think that's what caused Birmingham fits in the first game, and I think it's going to cause Birmingham fits in this game. But again, Birmingham's been there. Birmingham has won 2 in a row. Maybe we see some butterflies. Maybe we see some early mistakes from San Antonio. Can they weather those mistakes, get themselves back on track, and roll from there? That'll be the big question because, for a long time, there will be times where they say, well, the Patriots have Tom Brady, but, I'm not sure it's their year because this team has this and this team has that and blah, 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 blah. And Tom Brady's hoisting the trophy. They've been there. They've done that. They know what the process is. That's why I don't think, whether coming to St. Louis twice and not having been here, Birmingham's been there before. Maybe not to the Dome, but they've been to the championship before. It's gonna be San Antonio, whether those early butterflies, do they come out flying around the football? Do they neutralize? That's one of the biggest things I think we saw in the first game between the two was I think they were able to neutralize Adrian Martinez on the ground more so than anybody ever has because of the speed of that defense. What do you think, Mike?
Well, let's go to a break first. When we come back, we'll hear from Mike. We'll be right back.
I get in the game, forget the money and fame. Stay ready, making sure that they'll remember my name. I got a hunger inside when the numbers are tied. Yo, I'ma turn it up a level, never will be denied.
First off, too, see that Royal Retros is a part of the show. So for those who are like me, who are throwback fans, I was actually browsing on there, looking at old hockey sweaters. So hopefully, I see that promo code there. May have to put that into some use here pretty quickly. So bit happy to have them aboard. But so what was the and with this game too? Lots to look forward to. I mean, I'm very excited to see how this game unfolds. I'm actually excited. Do we know who the designated home team is for this? Because I know in the NFL you have 1 year NFC, 1 year AFC, the next year. I would assume the one with the better record is going to be the designated home team for uniform choice. So I would assume we will see the contrasting colors of red and the San Antonio yellow in that game. I think that'd look great on television. Just having, those two colors clashing. So that's what I hope to see. I hope, I saw the UFL propose the question, who had the better uniform set. I think we'll both get their Sunday best, right, to play in this championship. So I'm excited.
So what do you think of that spread, Eric? 3.5 point favorites of Birmingham.
On a neutral field, a 3.5 point spread is giving it's a very slight edge. That 0.5 says that the Vegas is giving them a very, very slight edge. That's it. To me, 3.5 is a coin flip in the UFL. It's a coin flip. Birmingham's probably getting that spread based on the previous 2 years, the 9-1 record, that type of thing. That's where the 3.5 is coming from. But to me, that tells me Vegas is looking at this as a coin flip. And you could see that line move. You could see that line move even before.
And that kind of makes me hesitate too, because, at first glance, I'm thinking San Antonio all the way. And then I see the 3.5 points and, right away you go, oh, I'm putting my money on San Antonio. And it's like Vegas didn't get built overnight. They got built because they know what the hell they're doing. And
they weren't built on people winning bets. I can tell you that.
Had Birmingham won the first game, that would be probably a 7 to 8 point spread. Since they got beat, that's why the 3.5 is sitting out there. They think it's going to be a close game.
John David
3.5.
John David here says San Antonio has the home sideline according to the Ticketmaster app. So we may see the black jerseys go against the Birmingham white. I don't know if, I think they have the red pants too. So, I'd like to be in that room to see which uniforms are worn between who. I would like to, be in that room, a fly on the wall there to see how we're going to make this thing look really nice for television purposes.
So now that we've talked about offenses, let's talk about defense. You talk about the game in the trenches. Birmingham's strength is their defensive line, but yet you could say the very same thing about San Antonio as well. So yards could be at a premium coming up on Sunday. I've heard predictions of the score of the game at 35-31, 38-34, and I'm sitting here thinking this could very well be a 12-10 game.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think this is, again, the toughest call if you were to look at both sides. I look at if Mike just put up the over-under at 40. Is it 42? I'm taking the under all day. I don't know how they get to 42 points with these defenses. They are both mean and physical. I would say, looking at both defenses and watching them throughout the season, I would say Birmingham probably has the nod up front physically. They're big bad boys up there. And I'm not saying San Antonio isn't. I would give the nod to San Antonio on speed. I just think their defensive front is quicker. I think Birmingham defense is nastier up front. So it's really going to come down to, in my opinion, I think this game, as most games do, is going to come down to which offensive line can keep their quarterback clean and allow him to deliver the ball. I think you're going to see that early on. Whichever offensive line can establish themselves and keep San Antonio's quick pass rush out of there, or keep Birmingham's bruisers out of there, we're going to start to see which team starts to move the needle based on how the offensive line can handle these guys up front. Because I think they're very comparable in the back. I think, again, I give San Antonio the speed edge, but I think defensively they're very comparable. This game is going to be 100% decided by which offensive line can handle the opposing defensive line, which both are very good. I don't know. Mike, are you in agreement with that, or am I all wet on this? Do you think it's going to be another spot of the defense that has a bigger impact, or what do you see?
Oh, from what I'm concerned about, how not as much maybe to the San Antonio side, more so concerned how will the Stallions adjust to where, because we saw what San Antonio was able to do to shut down Adrian Martinez, in which I think Michigan Michigan was able to use that film of that game to really slow down Adrian Martinez as well. So how do they adjust? Are we going to see something different? I think this is going to be a lot of question marks. Hopefully, if Birmingham can't, I think they're in a lot of trouble against.
I have a question for you, Ed. I'm going to pose this question to you because this actually just came to my head when Mike was talking. When we look back to week 9, if you were to evaluate Adrian Martinez, do you believe his best strength is running the ball or throwing the ball? That's question number 1. What do you think, Ed? What's Adrian Martinez's strength, his legs or his arm?
Well, back in week 9, he went 18 for 32, 211 yards, 1 TD and 1 interception, 5 rushes for 56 yards. So, again, respectable, not big numbers. I mean,
but which one do you think is
I think if you want to talk advantage of the two defenses, I got to think Martinez has the advantage over Garbers, because if you have to be mobile to get away from a rush that's coming in that's really putting the heat on,
yes,
I think Martinez has the escapability a lot more than what Garbers is going to have.
So you're saying that his legs are more valuable than his arm. Not that his arm's bad, I'm not saying that, but you're thinking his legs, correct?
Oh, I think he gives them another dynamic at the quarterback position.
Now, this is the question that just popped into my head as Mike was talking. Because of that game in week 9, and Martinez did not seriously damage San Antonio or really put them tremendously at risk with his legs like he has in other games against other teams. Do you think that Skip, I know there's some other things, they had some, between him and Skip, but do you think that he's thinking that if Adrian Martinez's legs are neutralized again in this game, I'm going to need Matt Corral?
Oh, absolutely. Even though Martinez got the MVP, make no mistake, and Coach Holtz proved it last week, if it ain't working, by halftime, he's going to make the change. I firmly believe that. And not only that, but, like Brahma Babe says here, Birmingham gets rattled when things aren't going their way. And when they do that, she makes a good point that they become chippy and undisciplined, and that's when penalties start. I mean, that game against Michigan, they were getting 15-yard penalties, one right after another, that first half against Michigan, until he had the round table with the referees, and then all of a sudden it started going the other way.
I had Birmingham fans text me. They said, Mike, this game is over. Someone out there texted me saying, oh, congratulations. Some Birmingham fan out there.
Just to go to JR's comment, can you put JR's comment up there, Ed? I would, with complete affirmation, JR, say no, they did not. If I remember correctly, in week 9, and somebody can check this, I think Dormady, I'm not even sure he had any yards rushing.
Well, and also too, Garber, look at his, I'm not a stats guy, but look at his touchdown versus interception. Dormady is almost throwing as many to the other team as he is.
Correct.
His touchdown interception ratio is pretty much 1-to-1. So if you want to talk about a true difference maker, I think it's Garber's all the way.
100%.
I think the only way Dormady sees the field is injury.
Yes, I would agree with you. I think you got to roll. You got to roll with Garber's. I mean, and that's another reason why I think Skip Holtz brought Matt Corral in, is because if you take 50% of Adrian Martinez's game away, which I think San Antonio is very capable of doing. I mean, they showed it in week 9. I still believe that's why Matt Corral, I mean, obviously there's some other things going too, but what better way to see what you have going forward if Matt Corral comes in and does what he does if Adrian Martinez is not able to run the ball and be effective moving out of the pocket, getting away from pressure because of the speed of San Antonio's defense? I don't know. That could be why. That could be part of the reason.
I definitely think San Antonio will have somebody, Hawk and Martinez. They'll be assigned to him. They'll make sure they follow him all over the field.
He'll have a shadow. I think
he'll have a shadow.
No,
they'll attempt to keep him in the pocket. That's always the saying to every running quarterback, is they always say we got to keep him in the pocket until you don't.
Yes.
But I think San Antonio will have somebody assigned to making sure, that he doesn't get those big plays on the ground.
Yeah, he'll have a linebacker shadow for sure. And that linebacker will be just as fast, if not faster, than Adrian Martinez. I can promise you that.
So Mike, what do you think? What do you think Michigan's game plan was against Martinez? How did they approach the game against Birmingham on defense? Because for the most part, they were pretty damn effective against Martinez. So
they were.
So what do you think was their strategy that San Antonio might be watching the game film and say, I get what they were doing?
Containment. There was even plays like the defensive line. Once you got to Martinez, they didn't tackle him, but just wrap his ankles, like like Dan Campbell kneecaps biting, like wrap on there. Don't let go. Don't let him get away. I've seen that multiple times throughout the game. That's how he did it week 2 against Michigan, where he beat him on the edge, running all around. And they said, we will stop. We'll have you throw the ball. We will continue on the ground, because that's, I think, where he hurts teams the most, is like their defenses, is his ground game, his running attack. They said, we'll trust our defensive backs. You got Kai Nakua back there. So trust the defensive backs, let them play. You got Gibson from the Pittsburgh Maulers. I think he's done a good job throughout the season as well. We dare you to throw. We're going to have you throw. We will contain the run. And if San Antonio, I think, does that, I think they have a good shot. Wade Phillips, defensive-minded head coach, he'll figure out the pass game. Let's contain them on the ground.
So let's go to a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue our discussion.
Houston, we've triumphed. I've made it back to Earth with the cargo intact. The game-changing, time-sensitive payload is none other than the revolutionary energy flavor we've all been waiting for. Introducing Merc Mayhem Cherry Limeade. Merc Clan played a crucial role in securing this energy flavor, and together we've unlocked the future of power. Merc Mayhem is not just a drink, it's a statement, a fusion of relentless energy and bold flavor. The secret is out. Merc Mayhem is set to redefine the energy landscape, leaving ordinary drinks in its cosmic dust. Get ready for a taste explosion that matches Merc Clan's unparalleled power. Join the revolution, and let's unleash Merc Mayhem upon the world. Astronaut M signing off.
Same great taste. Yes. Same great taste. Same great taste.
We are back. So, one thing we didn't do, Eric, is we never did your studs and duds for last week.
We did not do the studs and duds for last week. We did
not do the studs and duds.
Do Battlehawks fans even want to? Do they want to plug
before you get started on that? I mean,
this might be for JR.
It's only fitting that we start off with this.
The studs and duds, baby. There's a stud right there.
Easy. Studs and duds.
Okay. So I made it a short list because I think these are pretty. I thought it was an easy call this week. Matt Corral definitely leads my list of studs. He came in, has been sitting for 6 weeks. Definitely kept his head in it, definitely kept in the room, definitely kept involved. I mentioned it earlier. Then he comes in and goes 9 for 11, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns, interception, has 113.8 QB rating. The dude, I mean, he closed it out for him. And to have an asset like that, I mean, it's clear that St. Louis didn't have that kind of asset, because A.J. McCarron was playing on one leg, and we didn't go to anybody else, even when it was clear he was not going to get the job done. He was so immobile, sitting in the pocket, just getting hammered, going down before he even got hit, that type of thing. So to have a luxury like Matt Corral to come in and do what he did, definitely a stud this week. The Stallions' second half defense gets a nod. The first half, not so much. But the second half, they really shut them down, and they gave their offense a chance. They scored 6 on their own. Then they gave their offense a chance, and they just held serve for the rest of the game. And that's what a good defense needs to do. So definitely the Stallions defense. Probably my biggest studs of the week is the Brahmas rushing attack. I mean, and then you got to include the offensive line in there because they were huge in that. They absolutely, and of course, Ed, you were there, they picked St. Louis apart. I think single-handedly San Antonio could have won that game if they would have attempted 0 passes. I really do. I think they attempted 21. And of course, Garber's, again, very efficient, 15 to 21. 192, 2 touchdowns. He had that early interception on the first drive for a 112.6. He also made the stud list because, again, you've been beaten twice. It is hard to beat a team 3 times, but Garbers and company with McFarland, Lovett, Kirkland, Smith, Stevenson, that fast defense, they made sure that it was not going to happen a third time. So, and I think McFarland had 115-ish, 120, and then I think Lovett added another 80 or 85, somewhere right in there.
Yeah,
so,
McFarland had 115 yards on just 11 carries.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that's not a bad average.
That's not bad at all. That's 10 yards for sure. So, definitely there's a huge list of studs there for the teams that won. Now for the duds.
Oh,
Mike, I'm very sorry for this.
Oh,
but the Michigan defense, I thought, just was dominating Birmingham. They were doing what they needed to do. I mean, I was just thinking, man, this is Michigan's game. They look like they're hungry. Birmingham looks confused. Michigan is where they need to be. And then when I was coaching baseball in the early 2000s, we were playing a team, and it was for the conference. And I think we were up 2-1 at the time. No, it was 2-0. We had our ace pitcher going. At the time, I felt 2 runs was enough. But it was the top of the 5th, and we just started circling the bases. And I think we put up a crooked number. I think it was something like 7. And when our 4th run scored, the opposing coach was in the middle of his bench with his arms up there and his legs crossed. And the JV kids or the bench kids were way away from him because he was not having a good day. And he just said, and I could hear him, I was at third base, I had to keep from laughing, "The wheels on the bus go falling off," and he just screamed so everybody could hear it. That's what went through my head when I watched things start to just spiral out of control for Michigan. It just everything was starting going right for Birmingham. All of a sudden, Michigan looked confused, and you needed the Michigan defense in the first 2.5 quarters to finish the game, and they just couldn't do it. And unfortunately, the offense kind of sputtered too, but the defense was playing well enough to win that game, and it kind of folded.
Yeah, and and like I said earlier in the show, against a team like that, you got to finish them. I mean, finish them by getting those drives, finish them in the end zone, and you can't, as much as anytime you can get points against Birmingham, but points were very much at a premium against Birmingham. You got to finish them, and they couldn't do that. They kept Birmingham, kept them in the game.
And the pick 6 was obviously not the defense's fault, but it's the defense's response that you need to see. And it was almost like that pick 6. I don't know. It just made me think like, Michigan's sitting there. They're holding on to a handful of water, thinking they're still going to have it. It's just seeping little by little.
Yeah. And, weather could have been a factor too. The heat, especially like when you watch a lot of the Michigan games this year, they had I would say 8+. They like the run the ball, defense getting a lot of rest on the side of it. But now that pick 6, you got to go back out there.
Yeah.
So that plays a role.
That really killed you guys. Another dud, Etling throwing the 3 picks. It was just, you get a pick. In a big game like that, you have to value the ball more than I felt like he was valuing it, at least in that second half. And so that absolutely killed Michigan.
I do have an honorary stud.
Okay.
Just and I'm just going to lay it out there. It is the Michigan Panthers football helmet sitting in the direct sun. This the gold, something about that gold really pops, and it's really
Boy,
nice.
he loves that
helmet.
My
goodness.
He is.
They have it on that when you go to a UFL game, they play that video before, I think there's maybe a half hour before kickoff. They'll play the video that talks about all the UFL teams, and one that when they bring up Michigan, they talk about the helmet. They said, the great, hottest helmet this side of the Mississippi, show that beautiful helmet there. But good.
You don't have a trophy, but you still got the helmet.
Got the helmet.
I've been trying to get a Michigan flag this year, and every time I go online, do you guys have a 3x5 flag that you sell?
I mean, there's a I see it. I see the comment. I
saw it too.
I know good uniforms.
I mean, here I am. I even go online here in St. Louis, and I would love to have an updated St. Louis Battlehawk flag. Every time you go online, it's still the 2020 version, and it's like, once again, marketing at its best. You can't even so much as get a flag that is updated design.
Awful.
It's just incredible.
Another dud on the list. I know Mike Rose went down early, but the St. Louis defense, come on, man. I know the offense was putting, and there's offense that makes the list here too, but I know the offense is putting you in bad position. I know, and I was talking to Ed before the show started. I'm like, the defense goes out and maybe they get a stop. They sit down on the bench, they take their helmets off, they put them on the back, and like, good job, boys. And then in like a minute and a half, it's like, we're back out on the field. So I do have a question mark behind that one, because I think it's more the St. Louis offense that is the dud that created that. So maybe I put both of them on there, the offense and the defense. It just looked like San Antonio came to play. Maybe it was the AJ McCarron's hurt, whatever, but it looked awful.
So let's okay, go ahead.
Well, my last one, and I'll make this real quick because this has an asterisk too. McCarron playing on one leg. I realize, before the game, everybody was a gutsy performance, things like that. But man, it's one thing. I could throw a Battlehawk uniform on there and they could say, hey, that dude's never played professional football before. What a gutsy performance to even go out on the field. I really felt like that's where he was at. Like, I just felt like he just didn't have anything to give. And I realize we're probably not winning the game with Manny anyway, but so I'm kind of conflicted about that. If you're supposed to be the quarterback of the league, then we've got to have a performance in a tough game. I was reading some comments on Facebook where it was like, well, last year we didn't make the playoffs because of a technicality. We made the playoffs this year, so watch out next year. I mean, all right, I love the enthusiasm, but you never know when you're going to get a chance at the playoffs again. So you have to take advantage of when you can. I know he was hurt, but it is what it is. So there's the studs and duds. Unfortunately, Mike, for Ed and I and you, the dud list was predominantly Michigan and St. Louis this week, and it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, before we go to Mike again, this has been a trend here. Let's take our final break. We'll be right back. Interesting question, and I'll pose this to Mike. Silvers. JR brought up in in the comments section a little bit earlier in the show, where was Silvers this year? When the Battlehawks went to Manny Wilkins, it was obvious to me anyway that even though he had scrambling ability, he just didn't have the arm to throw the ball deep. Too much air resulted in big-time interceptions. So if AJ is as hurt as, well, we all know he was because his mobility was gone, how bad must it have been that you don't even consider Silvers as a possibility when just a year ago he was a starting quarterback for a team for almost half the season when he was with Houston?
Well, I can tell you, and I've said it, this is just Silvers has been managing the Long John Silver's restaurant chain. So that's where he was. So he was, kidding aside though, but I don't know. I mean, it was AJ McCarron's show, in St. Louis. Now, for those who, Silvers, again, when he may have had an opportunity elsewhere, to start get some snaps. He may but I don't know what happened behind the scenes, whether, he's not we're not trading him, if that was on St. Louis, because maybe, who knows? Injury can happen anytime. We saw AJ hurt, but it's a weird situation. Maybe, from the AJ McCarron press conference, he's a big advocate for the league. Now, does he come back as a starting quarterback next year? Was this it sounded like, because he was really all in on winning the championship this year, very emotional in the press conference. So is it up in the air that AJ McCarron may or may not be back for the next season?
Well, I was at the game. Of course, I wasn't close to the tunnel in St. Louis, but let's just say that AJ took some undue heat leaving the field that day. And, there was some real jerks in the stadium that don't have a clue, that kind of gave him a send-off that, they have no appreciation whatsoever for the sacrifice that he made for the team and what he went through just to get on the field to where he could even play. And you got some beer guzzler yelling out, profanities to him and talking about his family and stuff like that. So
not good.
But like Brett says here, why did they even sign Silvers to begin with? I got to believe that there's some kind of an arrangement there, whether it's AJ kind of alluded in the post game that he was possibly thinking of coming back as a coach instead of a player next year. So I wonder if there was some kind of a deal there where, Silvers and AJ are pretty good friends. So, AJ had spoke at Liberty about how Silvers isn't the best golfer in the world. So I got to believe that there's some kind of reason that, because, Silvers, he was pretty vocal when he was with Houston, and he has a pretty good attitude. Which, if you're a good quarterback in the league, they all have attitudes to some extent. But as outspoken as he was last year, you didn't hear a peep out of him this year. So that leads me to believe that there was something in the mix there.
Something I just thought about here. Maybe AJ McCarron, maybe he's not a player. He did talk about coaching, so maybe offensive coordinator is in the works. Could that be a possibility?
Yeah. Here, wait, Mike. Ed and I need to have a moment of silence.
I was going to say, should we spend the last 5 minutes reflecting?
No. Yeah. Okay, I'm done. I need to have a moment of silence there.
So anyway, let's get to our picks quick.
Yes, here we go.
Because 2 or 3 minutes before the top of the hour, we got to be Bolton, because we've got another show after ours that we can't hold up the show for. So go ahead, Mike. I will let you go first.
Oh boy. So I thought about this one too. So what a story. I think the old Wade Phillips riding out in the sunset, I think it'd be a nice story. A nice feel-good story. I think everybody would like to see, especially those, kind of don't have any stake in the game. What a send-off that would be. They well deserve it. But from what I've seen, this juggernaut, it's gonna be you're gonna have to play, I think, perfect if you're San Antonio against this game. And from what I know with football, not a lot of perfect in football games, though. I think the team that's going to come out on top is going to be close. Now, I don't think they cover, whether you want to talk about the spreads or what, it's going to be a close game throughout, but give me the Birmingham Stallions to win this one close. I won't give a score, but I'm going to go Stallions.
Eric.
Well, since I'm the big dog, I guess I can sit back and just enjoy my big dog status, whatever the hell this thing is. I've gone back and forth after the games ended Saturday and Sunday. I was like, man, this is going to be a tough game. I honestly, I think the UFL needs San Antonio to win, because just from a fan standpoint, or somebody who's thinking about the league, or the UFL, and if one team's always, I mean, look at the NFL. When the Patriots are winning all the time, it kind of becomes, I don't know, almost bad for business. I think the UFL needs San Antonio to win, but
Vegas doesn't.
Vegas doesn't, obviously. But it's tough for me. It's very tough for me to pick against the champions. I'm still in my mind the Adrian Martinez, Matt Corral thing. San Antonio's firing on all cylinders, but they're just a week before they scored 12 points. I'm going to go with Birmingham, and it's a tough, real tough call, but I'm going to go with Birmingham.
So me, I think it's a bigger deal than you guys. You guys are just kind of poo-pooing it, and I think it's real. This is going to be the third consecutive week San Antonio has made this trip. They've got their routines down. There's nothing that is going to surprise them now. They totally know what to expect. Then I find out from some of the super fans of San Antonio that when they went to the Memphis Showboat game, the house that they were staying at before the game, they found a little, what they called touchdown Jesus, that was stuck in the yard of the house they were staying in. And it's been a phenomenon that has caught on with San Antonio. At first it was the super fans bringing it from game to game. Then it turned into giving it to the players, the coaches. I mean, before this game in St. Louis this last week, they had the coaches, the offensive coordinator, they had the players all touching touchdown Jesus, to the point where, you know how it is. It's almost like teams come up with something that unites them all and gives them the confidence. And for whatever reason, San Antonio has bought in hook, line, and sinker to touchdown Jesus. And I think with their defense, with their three-headed offense that they've got, not only a running back, but then their wide receivers. I just think that this is the year that in the XFL, coming in season 1 of the UFL, they are going to take it home. And I see San Antonio winning. And I'll even put a score out there. I will say 20 No, they're not. Their field goal kicker, I can't say that.
Santoso.
Because of their field goal kicker, they're only going to score 18, but they're going to hold Birmingham to 12. I say it's San Antonio 18-12.
So you're telling me.
Better make it quick because in a minute.
Yeah. Okay. You're telling me that a little statue is going to will San Antonio to a UFL championship as a Viking fan. You're telling me in how many years of existence the Vikings haven't found some little touchdown Jesus that we can all get behind?
Don't kid yourself, dude. If this works and San Antonio wins, I am somehow either going to get that touchdown Jesus or I'm going to find one of my own and come hell or high water, it's going to Minneapolis.
Good Lord.
Because if it works for the UFL, you just won't give it a shot in the NFL.
And lastly, St. Louis fans, make it a big party. Go to the game. Make it a celebration of football. Kurt Warner in the building. Tom Brady in the building. Go show everybody. Go show Fox. It's the biggest. Make it a big party. Go watch this football game.
You got all the powers that be are going to be there. So everybody, take in the game Sunday. If you can't get there, watch it on TV. I think it's going to be one hell of a game. And we'll be back again to talk about it. So have a good rest of your week. And let's have a great game Sunday. So long, everybody.